We're live now because we've got nothing to hide. I want to thank the people for the overwhelming response for the Earth No Longer Under Quarantine videos, which actually gives birth to a few videos that have a lineup is why particle physics is bogus, and do we need the Large Hadron Collider, and is channeling for real, UFO for dummies. But all of this comes into a merger to actually explain a few things. So, as in for belief systems, some people, and I have to say this, they come with to Jesus, and if you don't believe Jesus died for your sins, and if you don't pray to him, you have nothing. All of this. People that talk the Jesus talk, if you haven't read the Talmud of Emmanuel and the Apocryphes, which are pieces from the Bible that are not allowed by the Vatican, that have papers of the Messiah walking the earth, and you don't know about them, you don't have enough equivalent knowledge as a believer or a Bible true, whatever you are, to debate anything because you don't know the basic and fundamental things that this guy taught, like Buddha. And we killed all our messiahs. We deaded all of them, and it was manipulated. And also, what the girls don't know is that the males cut out all the female perspectives and the peacekeeper perspectives. So I wanted the females also to speak up. Then we have a woman named Madame Blavatsky for the females, young, divorced, abandoned from her community, and they claimed she was doing black magic and all of this stuff. You know, if you want to really go deep into studies, this requires studies, and I have the time to do that while I work, is go into the secret doctrine, the papers of Madame Blavatsky. She had basically Sanat Kumara and Joel Kuhl on her couch and took notes. Einstein mentioned, I don't know if it's in his biography, but it's from his life, that he studied Madame Blavatsky's translations about molecules and atoms. And there's no wonder that Einstein, somewhat by leaning on the Vedic texts, which are scientific papers that go further out in history, comes back with a formula how to split the atom. So this guy is not the sole finder. He was just very smart of actually in what to look at, you know. So you have to know what papers to study. There is, if you go to a library or a monastery, there are apocryphes, apocryphic texts of Henoch, as in Enoch. They are not in the Bible. Enoch is mentioned in 2 sentences, that he was taken by the heavenly beings in a flaming chariot into the sky. And I checked that is in the German Bible, that is in the Latin Bible. You can do your own research and see that actually there's stuff that is written in text that people just claim to have knowledge and they don't know actually nothing. Let me fix this here. The wind is bothering me a whole great deal. And that's bothersome. So, I'm trying to explain is when people come in and want to debunk storylines, and I will do a video on that too, but I'm sharing this here live. I will bring it back again. Maybe call it debunking the debunkers. Spelunkers. Let me see if I'm gonna fix this. 1 second. Give me a second here. Annoying. Why is this doing this? Don't do it to me. So at least this can hold. So let's go to the topic debunking debunkers, and you will see repeats for people to really get the title so they can actually tune in. By debunking a debunker is I watched a video where they try to debunk the Puma Punku site by saying There are no diorite. There's just limestone, and describing the stones, and you have to watch the videos on Pumapunku. This is like so much stuff. So, as in debunking the debunker, I want to say this. And friends of mine went to the Pumapunku site, and I've seen the pictures. And there's not just limestone, there's not just diorite or granite, or there are even stones where there's not even a quarry in sight where these stones could be even brought to that plateau, where there are no trees and nothing to move that stuff. Let me fix this side here so I will continue this. Sorry, it's the wind is blowing me to smithereens. And that disturbs my transmission. So this shall hold. So, here's the thing with what I've seen. They found a statue in Egypt that is on display. I went to Egypt. Most of the artifacts that you see displayed, I've seen. So if people have also never traveled to the sites, you got to be very careful what they put in together, what they find on the net. Fact is, there is a black diorite statue in the Museum of Cairo, and some are even on the field, because the museum is literally packed, because the government has actually no money to fund anything more to stash it. Not to mention the politics that are ongoing. And you have to watch this one interview with Brian Förster, which I can confirm. And you can do this with Photoshop. They scanned a diorite statue of a sphinx that had a human face and then the body of a lion. And they went with technical experts that know about machining and CNC, if you know what that means. CNC is a machine like you can mill or chisel out of a solid object a form. But for diorite, it's the same thing as for the human teeth. You need diamond to cut it. You cannot cut diorite with a copper chisel. Okay? And when you go back with that statue that they found and they say, well, it's 10 to 15,000 years old, I say, with other carbon readings that they found, it's much older. Now here's my take, and correct me if I'm wrong. I'm trying to make sense like a farmer, like common sense. They found this statue made out of diorite that a stone mason cannot chisel. We cannot replicate it. So debunkers say this is all bogus, this can be done. But here's the thing is where a debunker fails, and I give you a couple of examples. That's why we have to use discernment, yes, but we have to keep our minds open. Now check this out. If a debunker can get me a block of diorite and then chisel a copy of a statue without groove marks and polishes it to a degree that if I scan it with a laser, the computer will tell me it is computer made, then the debunker has nothing. And if a debunker cannot reproduce or disprove with physical form that what he's saying is correct, a debunker is actually, to me, these are these sensationalists that are, sorry to say, full of crap. You have nothing but these stupid debates by trying to make the human race stupid again, and it's all a figment of our imagination. And I'm not even talking about us being extraterrestrial. I'm not even going there. I'm just, let's go high-tech civilization. Just us being very, very advanced, and we fell. We lost that with like, what did Ramtha say? The height of arrogance, we crashed. And when I hear these people, then I understand why we crashed. Because of this arrogance is still emanating, we are still immersed partially in that. And it kind of is upsetting where I'm a tech. I worked in construction, I learned electrical engineering, so I know when things are machined. Like, let's say your iPhone, yeah? The cover of the iPhone is machined. Hence, you have no groove marks. It is laser cut out of one piece. You can't do that by hand. Anybody by hand trying to make an iPhone by hand it will look like crap. Nobody can debunk that. That's just physical fact. So here's what I find interesting, expanding on that, debunking debunkers. Um, they found one of the statues of Ramses II, and on the side of it, very crappy and very bad, as if with a rusty nail, engraved Ramses II. That means this dude, and that is my opinion, see where the resonance goes, found these statues, found those pyramids and said, I'll tag that. I put my name on that. That meaning, you're Ramses II, you no longer uh, have the powers that those who came before you had, and you don't know the building construct. I explain even further. That's like I said, study Brian Ferster and others that'll show you. The further back in time you go, the more accurate the cuttings of the blocks are. With no mortar. Like temples put together just by putting rock upon rock, and you can pour water between those rocks. Water doesn't even go through it, and you can do it yourself when you're in Egypt and you have a little drinking water and you're on a side where nobody watches. Use your water. It does not go into the crack. It is sealed. It is perfectly sealed. So if somebody can cut a rock where the plane is off by 1,000th of an inch, we have lasers that are not that accurate. You find errors. And they want to tell us, this is what gets me, that with copper chisels and stones, this was made. I'm saying bullshachen. I don't believe it. It can't. The thing is also, we say it, but it can't be replicated. I seen, I have a picture. Maybe one day I'll show it. I have to go through my archive of my old Egypt visit. I was standing on, I think, a 2,000-ton block. What do you call them? Obelisk. Cut out of one piece. So the backside of the rock had a cut that would suggest that the saw that they used, or whatever sawing material, would have to be 30 feet long. You know that a 30-foot long saw does not work because it's going to go swap and it's going to break. The longest saws you see is the lumberjacks when they cut woods. What was that, 10 foot, like the biggest tree? And two men doing this, and that shit breaks. Cutting wood. And they want to tell us that they cut solid rock with these things. I'm saying this was technology. The technology is gone. The leftovers are there, and we are baffled. The dude with the Schumann resonance, I can't read actually. Okay, there is no Schumann spike. You want to go to Ben Lonetree, Sedona Anomalies. He measures the Schumann resonance every day. Please, people, do not fall for the hype. There is no increase in Schumann resonance. Is people saying this, yo, there's more plasma. Well, if I don't have a plasma or a spectrum analysis, very expensive devices to measure that, and I'm not able to read that, I don't know. So be very careful when people deduct by saying the Schumann resonance spike. The Schumann resonance is unaltered, and I'll tell you why. Science has found out that the Schumann resonance only increases if the Earth's circumference is increasing. So if Earth would grow bigger, you would have more Schumann. Schumann is 7.83 hertz, unaltered and unchanged. And it has to be and remain that way. Okay? So that Schumann resonance increasing is hype. I said that in resonance to Earth is no longer under quarantine. Some people wanted to attack, but it's okay. I don't sit here and wait for an invasion that will never occur and is not occurring. I'm not getting goosebumps and I'm not getting the chills. And I'm going back to my people and my friends and my new subscribers. Please subscribe, because this is about common sense. If your mountain guide will tell you there's an earthquake tomorrow, it's time to leave now, and you know from experience this guy knows how to cross the mountain by physical fact, then you follow that mountain guide and you listen and you cross. This is what a shaman does. We make sure that mentally we are clear with common sense so we can cross that mountain. If somebody, let's say, has a gardening business and runs a shitty business, his machine doesn't work, he doesn't pay his bills, your garden looks like crap, well, that's the evidence is that you're not going to book that guy again. And what I'm trying to tell people is if you don't have any physical facts, then you're sitting there and you can listen to Roswell stories for the next 50 years. You have nothing tangible in your hands, and that is the crucial deal with Earth not being under quarantine no more. Is you need to establish your own individual contact. And I know many people that don't even want to be on YouTube because they don't even want to be attacked, that have physical contact. Watch the latest interview with Betty Hill, from Betty and Barney Hill, the first interracial couple that was abducted, officially known, in the 50s, near the area of Boston. She had a crew of people where she got coordinates, they got in their car, they made barbecue, ships would land, pictures were taken, and she hasn't even released those pictures. These pictures are only shown in the last interview, 2003, before she dies, where she has a statue of a guy that she calls Junior, shows you as a hybrid, probably a futuristic human looking in, that was in clear contact with her. And she shows the pictures. She doesn't mention the people that were with her, but she had a club, and many of us do, that get together in maturity, contact is established, pictures are exchanged, and we're being prepared for physical contact. And when that happens, you no longer seek narratives of any speaker on stage on any channel because you have hands-on experience. It's like, let's say if I'm a paraglider, then I don't want to hear storylines about the possibilities and how people and wherever they. I want to see pictures of where did you fly, what is your flying experience, can I get that machine, can I attain that, can I fly? So we want to fly. Right now, metaphorically speaking, going back to debunking the debunkers, is when the Wright brothers said they're going to build a plane that is heavier than air, motorized, that will fly. They were laughed at. That's why I'm laughing at debunkers right now, because the truth is things that refuse to go away no matter how much you want to debunk. So they attacked the shit out of the Wright brothers. If you know, the first ones in the world who built a plane heavier than air, motorized, that would fly. I don't know, 10 or 20 miles and maybe 6 or 7 feet high, but it flew. And they were laughed at, they were attacked. Faculties of science and the status quo was like, a machine that is heavier than air will never fly, okay? This is the basic level before we even go to UFOs. Why also I will make a video that will say why UFOs are real. The Wright brothers put the machine together, had an idea. I don't think they had big finances or people really supporting them because they were laughed at. They were laughingstock. So was Tesla. So was in part Einstein. Now here's the thing. There were famous scientists. I forgot the name. You have to watch these documentaries that dissed the Wright brothers and said, you know, an airplane. There will never be such a thing that will fly through the air to transport people because it's bogus. This will never take place. Before rockets were invented, scientists said us leaving the planet in our lifetime, highly unlikely. But within 100 years, we went from horse and buggy to, let's say, direction. Okay, because the moon is a whole other conspiracy theory, and I'm not going into that right now. But we always discredit the pioneers that develop stuff and saying it doesn't work. There was a guy in Australia that had, and I saw the documentary that showed that his motorbike would run on water. And the patent industry said that this is a trick, this is bogus, there's no such thing as a combustion engine that can run on water. You know how that works with the split molecules. And the guy to this day drives on his water. It's been on television. So the patent industry that doesn't have enough knowledge to understand superluminous technology or things that we already have will also either report you, debunk you, or your stuff will disappear. I had that experience live is I question everything, but I don't question my experience. There was a lady that bought a device from me, and she said she ordered a device that would emanate a frequency that would heal bone marrow in an accelerated pace. And she paid $5,000, and it came from Africa. And she said it was held up at customs. And after months and months of trying to track it down, it came and it was destroyed. But this is how it was destroyed. She said she opened the device, and all the cables and the wiring and the circuitry inside was deliberately cut. So nobody can tell me that we have higher technology and there are people that are interfering. About Earth quarantine, the quarantine has been lifted a while ago, but there are still people with the old belief system that run on memories and they act out the memories. That's what I'm saying. And when people attack and say, well, should we ignore the school shootings and all of this stuff? To the school shootouts is when all of these school shootouts happened, trace them back, must have been 30 different shootouts. One was even prevented, thank God, I heard. Has to do with the energy sequence of civil war hit America, and we're coming out of it. And when that spiked, that Vegas thing happened. So if you believe in fractal time and reoccurring events and radiogenesis as in cell memory, if somebody acts out a war memory, I believe this can happen. We have too many people living in cities, 22 million people in one spot. That it's anything that you can imagine can go wrong. It's insane. In Berlin, a truck driver drove into the Christmas market because he was about to be deported. When law and too much energy comes together, not even conspiracy, you will have static. And there are even sciences out there that can calculate where the most static will occur when the shift will increase exponentially. We should know that. And what we do is we witness that. So next debunking situation where I also have to laugh is, and not that I'm saying debunkers are wrong. There was one case with this guy, Randy the magician, I'd say a failed magician who was very smart, who said, I will debunk anything metaphysically that you're trying to bring here. He did something where I agree. He went to an evangelist that used a microphone and cards that his congregation would fill out with what ills they'd have, and then he would step on stage with an earplug, and his wife would pick up the conversations from the crowd and then dictate who he should pick psychically and then give him an instant healing. That hurts. And that's people that are about business and that are faking it. But the fact of the matter is that was debunked. The frequency that they were transmitting on was also debunked. And this guy went bankrupt shortly after and lost his business. So if somebody perpetrates, that shall not last. But if somebody has seeds that he can sow and you'll see fruit, there's nothing to debunk. So Einstein said there are gravitational waves, and people laughed at that concept. To this day, they still don't really believe in that. And 2016, we have finally found what Einstein theorized. There's a flux in the gravitation that has these frequencies that come like a comb every now and then to Earth. We call them gravitational waves. I want to believe from people that have extraterrestrial contact that once we understand gravitational waves and how to implement technology of anti-gravitic propulsion, we know how these systems work. What you do is you hinge your ship on it and then you go with it. That's why we don't understand what we see at the sky. Which will also, like, I have to do a short video, so basically where I will draw out. Ether, I believe, is another form of water. Vacuum is also another form of water. The theory I have developed that. Why? because there's been a few cases where astronauts' suits were leaking and they drowned in their suits, not in their own liquid. So if you out there in space, but your thing leaks and you die and you drown, your lungs are filled with water, what's outside of Earth? Air is just another form of water, we know this. Air is another form of water density. So if it's all based on waters, we don't know what we're talking about when we say ether, vacuum. We have actually no idea. We say plasma. We have actually no idea. Um, Same with particle physics. The Vedic texts teach there are no particles. What you see is an oscillation between the spirit world and the matter world in a moment in time. That's what you are. And they showed up the actual picture of an electron. You can't even see a solid object. That's not even possible. And I seen the photograph. You have to Google it. Uh, the pictures of electrons. And I say, do not focus on those where you see these solid things. This is CGI. Some of the atoms you see is CGI. This is not actually what it looks like. And the picture that I've seen that Michael Tellinger, watch his stuff, he shows a blue wave and another blue wave, and it's like a pond. You just see two blue waves and a ripple, and that's the electron. So the electron is an oscillation in space and time between the spirit world and matter. And what you see is this. And science is trying to make that particle. And some people say particle physics is like black magic. So be very careful with forming absolutes. And I'm a self-taught scientist. I studied physics since I was 9. Never went to Harvard, never looked for any degree because they didn't. What I wanted to study is the filter system and the intellectual racism in Europe. Is that tough? You don't stand a chance talking the way I talk to go anywhere with anything, which also proves my point. So, when the Vedic texts, this is what we must learn, say that the universe has frequencies. And when we understand these frequencies, these balls of light that come and go, they are not particles, they're not solid. They're here for a moment and then they're gone. And we're living the illusion that this is solid. There are rules and regulations in order for these templates to work. Also, I want to believe that Madame Blavatsky said that the template for the Homo sapien was conceived billions of years ago. I want to agree with that. Why? They found footprints in fossilized riverbeds in America that are like 290 million years old. That blows all of the stuff that we learned in school out of the water. I also believe that the pyramids are Atlantean, if you ask me. They're not Egyptian. This dude out there, Ali Wasad, I heard a story of people that went there on their private investigation. They found a tunnel, and he took that from them, put a gate on it, policed it, and said he found it. So this corruption that we have with who finds what also is so thick in Egypt that the pyramidiologist cannot say what's Egyptian and what's Atlantean because they have no idea, in my opinion. Not even not a shred of evidence and no clue of anything. What's going on? They go into the Gizeh pyramid that has no writing on it. And I've been to Egypt. I've been to the temples. And there's one writing in the tunnel in the Gizeh pyramid that says, I think, Khufu. And that is also, and from what I've seen, it looks like crap, like hand-carved crap. And I have it on camera. And I don't need to bring this up as a documentary because you've seen it over and over. There are buildings that are in pristine condition. There are hieroglyphs that look like they're laser obelisks. Everything that came after, chiseled name and empty cartouches, and the after chiseling looks like crap. That's when you know they did not have the same technology. You must be, even in layman terms, it's like, let's say you find a Lamborghini, model, or let's say Bugatti, model 2016, and then you use a Dremel and say, made by Arcturus Ra. Everybody would be able to tell that I can't be the creator of that car because my craftsmanship is not even, you can't even compare the two. So when you go back to the Incas, same deal. You have the solid rocks that look like they molded together, no cracks, no water, not even a hair goes through it. And then they build other temple structures on top, and it gets crappier because it's this layered rock that's kind of like half withered and falling apart. The foundation doesn't wither. And then there's a third layer. If you go to Machu Picchu, you go to town, you'll see that the town is built on another town. If you dig under the buildings, you see stuff that is much more sophisticated and solid and undisturbed. So the further back you go, the more sophisticated the technology goes. Also, what is a freaking noodle is, can anybody tell me why the top of the pyramid of the Gizeh Plateau, according to carbon decay reading, is older than the bottom? So according to Tohoth the Atlantean, it's a thought projection that was projected from up to down. That would explain that. But in our mind, we cannot fathom how do you project an object with your mind and it comes into being. So let's go back to, let's say, thank you, CJ. Respect. Now check this out. I'm just using common sense here. And that common sense, I think, is closer to the psyche than listening to scholars that can dilute your mind. There's the Bhagavad Gita. There are many books called Bhagavad. There's one is called Bhagavad Mahabharata, if I'm not wrong. And in that book, I have to really get into these ancient Vedic texts that are 6,000 to 10,000 years old, I think even older. They talk about there was a Vishnu type god, if Krishna is the name, like a holy figure, much more powerful than the Jesus stories. And the dude, sits on a mountaintop, puts his hand here, and then he goes, Maha Barabha Shanamahandya Darabahatbaya Ba Maraya Dashabahata. And after he verbalized that, a temple in the sky appears. They call it Vimana, and lands. And they say that is the majestic holiness from the sky that came and landed, and it ruled Earth for tens of thousands of years. So if that's a spaceship that looks like a temple, that you by Space Command. Today we have glass pads, cellies, if I want to call Uber, tip, 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 and get a destination, boom. To us, that's now technology. But you go back in time, it's magic. You have a bonjour. You have a glass pad. You utter words that the others don't understand because this is the program language. It's the language of the gods. Our forefathers. Understand, it's not like we're stupid and the ETs are smarter than us. I think we're their offspring, and we got hella confused. And something we've yet have to decipher where we come from, what this all means. If you watch the movie with Star Wars, I mean the one before The Last Jedi, you see the city of the Jedis, peace, Lectorian Star Child, is they show the city Jeddak, or Jediah, that gets destroyed. And they show the planet that looks like the moon, and they call it, what is it, the Death, not the Death Eater, the Planet Killer, whatever. If anybody knows, just type in Planet Killer or... They shoot the city and the earth underneath the Death Star, and the earth is turned upside down and the city into the ground. Madame Blavatsky said, the understanding of the remnants of our future selves is 60 miles beneath the earth's surface. So if you'd suck the Sahara Desert dry, it would probably be mind-blowing. Also, the anomaly in the Baltic Sea looks like a crashed something, because it has skid marks and it sits on the ground and it's a disc. They want to say it's a temple. They did They probed the thing. It looks like almost fossilized metal. So maybe it's a solid ship that crashed there and sat in the base for 200,000 years. Also, in the story with Krishna, there's a famous story. And you have to understand, why would we create mythological storylines to make the world around us make sense? Why so much effort in creating these crazy, super, others call them fairy tale stories, and then we build monuments to enforce that? Something of a very major impact must have had influenced us in order to even create that. So here's the quick story to wrap the story up real quick. Um, Earth was under attack by 3 cities that came from the stars. So it says in the Bhagavad Mahabharata. Okay? There are also other texts like Nahamadi. Or those who want to get deeper into Jesus, is called the Talmud of Emmanuel. It's actually a part of Jesus' brother story perspective. That's also not in the Bible. The original Bible has 20,000 pages, know this, that sits in the Vatican. It has rubies, diamonds, and all that stuff on it, and I think that they don't even allow, if you're not a holy person at a certain level, you can't even touch that book, because you just, if the frequency is too high, it's kind of like radioactive, so it's shielded and protected. They're not even let you touch that stuff. So even if you were a president, you would have to be 35 levels above security to even see anything. And when you have seen it, you have to be under oath for plausible deniability. So there are storylines that the average mind will not get their hands on. Why? Because, and this is where the oppressors or those who run the memory laugh, we don't investigate. We don't go and ask and look. Like, how many of you at home take a glass of water from your tap water and measure the pH level, send it into a lab, and get the readings of what's the quality of your tap water? Probably less than 15%. We don't investigate. How many of those who live in LA know that the gate of Ishtar, the gate of Ashtar, actually, with the sacrificial symbols and emblems of the Anunnaki, is in the center of Hollywood Boulevard and Facebook? You all run through Hollywood Boulevard and you don't see it. And it's not a facade, and it's not a kind of Disney World props. It's a gate that is a replica of the Babylonian ancient gate for sacrifice that sits Hollywood Central, Hollywood Boulevard. Ask yourself, why is this put there? You think this is for fancy or for coincidence or in remembrance of the Anunnakians? This is ancient draconian Anunnakian rulership in power. Look at the symbolism in Paris. Paris is built by Freemasons, and it's built for power and dominion and rulership. And if you look from above, it has the avenues, the black sun, everything, all the coordinates. You can see it from Google. That is a control grid. So you live in a city, you pay my tax, I control that, this is my rules, and this is what you abide by. And as long as we don't wake up from it, we're still subject. And I say, don't rattle the establishment. All I wish for you people is to develop, DC too, develop the awareness of what you see around you. That will change how you think. And then you'll see how you spend, what you invest in, and what you subscribe to. That's why we're here, to seed consciousness, to elevate to a level that you're better. And see, I'm on here almost like 40 minutes where therapists get $500 to $1,000 an hour to tell people how not to kill themselves, and say, here's some Prozac, or here's Zertifam, or whatever stuff they give you. And yet millions are on to see if the Kardashians, bought new dresses or something new is going on. Interestingly, in Babylon 5, the Kardashians are reptilian. The Kardashian, from the Kardashianian system, and they have this year, they're reptiles. So I wonder why that name pops up. What's the parallel? Does that make sense, or am I losing my mind? Just you put the pieces together. Like, think for yourself. So, Large Hadron Collider. Somebody said, by having this device, I don't think it's a gate to hell. I think it creates density, and I think it's useless, and I think the Higgs particle is not the God particle, because the God particle is actually ultimately yourself. We're looking for ourself. Yeah. Yeah, we're not reptilian 100%. We have a reptilian stem brain, which was needed in order for it to survive on Earth. But this is not under reptilian control. But your stem brain is reptilian. That's the base. That is agreeable. Yes, yes, yes. But you consist out of many, many races. Make no mistake. We're ultra muds. Anyway, so the Large Hadron Collider accelerates the particles in a high velocity. I'm just giving you these very, very, very rude terms, and smashes them together. And by the energy that's being released, they're trying to figure out the Big Bang. And a famous scientist said this is like you get two car manufacturers, you accelerate the two cars at a very high velocity and smash the cars together. Mind you, you don't know what the cars look like, you don't know who the manufacturer is. And from the debris of these cars that got smashed together in a, you can say, nuclear explosion, you want to figure out who the manufacturer is. It is highly unlikely that you will find it out that way. I think the way is within. I believe that codes written in our DNA, science talks about codons. I'm giving you a little bit of everything because I want your mind to be rattled and put stuff together yourself. You don't need me. I'm just here to just look at this for a little bit. So, the junk DNA, I believe, is what we call ET DNA, extraterrestrial parts that we don't even know how to read from this side of the planet. And the knowledge about atoms and free energy is within. And yeah. Yeah, actually, when you smash atoms and when you destroy an atom, you create density. You collapse the reality of a sun. An atom is equivalent to a sun. It's like if the sun would explode, reality in here would collapse, and a lot of destructive force would be released. So we use electric power by collapsing miniature suns. I think that's absolutely utter nonsense, and we have to find a different way. However, this was channeled. This can't be good. Also, the decay of Chernobyl. For hundreds and thousands of years, the decay of the dark light, which is also called the unlight, that's emanated from the destruction of an atom, destroys all life. So if anybody tells me by hiding that in the ground, and even that new scientist, that's the youngest physicist in the world that built his nuclear reactor in a garage, I believe atomic energy is utter destruction and nonsense. Like you want to store destructive energy and keep it at bay, and the more it's produced, the more we need, the more of that destructive crap we have to store. That doesn't make sense in my book. Okay? What makes sense in my book is that the word atom, the creator god of the Egyptians, is called Atum. There's another word, Atumus, and in Latin, atom. Atom means which cannot be divided. What more do we need to understand that we shouldn't split atoms? That beats me. Physicists that believe that this is the way. When the word atom means that which cannot be divided. Like, are we that retarded for profit to get energy that we still are doing that? And I believe that the Large Hadron Collider is not opening a gate to hell, whatever everybody says. I believe that it creates density. It creates three-dimensional aspects of collapsed reality. And when you create nuclear power and fission and fusion, what happens, you make in the quantum field what's phase conjugate, the natural harmonious field and environment. When that bleeds out, you have storms, catastrophes, and destructions. That bleed out effect fractally happens until it is healed and find a balance. But if you're not smart doing that, you see what the storm Michael did in Florida. Your little houses and little things won't hold. If a dam breaks, let's say the Hoover Dam, if that ever gives, guess what? You have no technology in the world to stop that, because fractally energy will seek an equilibrium to balance out the equation of what nature is. And that is a rule that physics tries to explain with particle physics, which I think is bogus. So what do I do, and what should the smart men do? Um, I think that we have the technology to open portals, and I think that we are the gateways. And I think the Mayans knew this because the Mayans say that the human vessel is a galactic portal. If one can see a ship, a divine royal class ship, others will see through him. And then others will see, and the others that see will make the others see. It's the theory of the 100th monkey, where even people want to debunk that. But it's been written, if 100 people find a formula or study something, the people next room are much quicker finding that. Because they immersed, it's called immersia, in the field of what is being attracted. Simple technique, when somebody says, if you want to learn English, it is harder to learn English in a school in Germany than to learn English in the country. Why? Because in the US, or an English-speaking country, you are immersed in the field where all the thoughts that people project and emanate are English. And they found out that people in the country learn quicker. I see ships inside clouds sometimes, not sure. By anyone, yeah, I see that too. I've seen a ship decloak in clouds. I mean, I've seen stuff where those who think that I'm a nut job, I can't help them. I'm not here really to convert people. I'm only talking to the people like you that I love and that are in resonance. Please, if you haven't subscribed, subscribe. Join your tribe, because when you subscribe to what enhances you, guess what? You also accelerate. What I'm wearing, if you're asking yourself, that is a neural efficiency stimulator. So it makes my neurons fire better. So basically, yeah, if you don't have that, get it. It's a Neurophone by Patrick Flanagan. Yeah, I had problems containing subjects that are not my main interest, and now I can memorize stuff better that I have to learn. This year is what I'm giving you, is I'm learning that because that's my passion. I love that stuff. You know, I really, really, really want to look at stuff like, why is this here? Why does this make sense? And to wrap it up, to give you another funny debunking story, there's more coming for chakra alignment that I'm actually building. See here also soon you'll see. For girls, it's already in my Etsy store. It's the Tzolk'in calendar translated to a dial. So see, the time codes are different, but for every kin there's a time code. I will explain that too also in another video, which is a lot of work how to explain the 320 cosmic time alignment, the planetary alignment, and then 1260, which is a numerical system, Gregorian calendar falsities, how you bring that into synchronicities, that you actually know when you're sync with by fate where you should be at what time, to help you translate that better. So that's a Tzolk'in watch. So for the girls, I have 4 made because it's tough to produce. These nice stuff, like really exclusive, really with the band and all that. You have to find companies that can actually don't question you and do what you want that. So that's for girls. Like right now, I have only for girl models, and they're not expensive, so it's easy. They're designer watches, and I guarantee you, there's only a few in the world. And the ones that I make, I'm the only one that makes those, photonically charged. So I'm not reinventing the wheel. We thought of this way past back. But it takes a genius mind to see assembly and put pieces together. So let's go back to the statue of Ramses II. That was falsely engraved by the following of Ramses, but the statue was found by them, not made by them. That statue, and I think you can Google it, is made out of diorite. It is shiny like glass. It has no groove marks, no cut points. There's nothing for you. It's clear as like quartz glass. So they measured the head of the diorite statue. So also for the debunkers, that statue is out of diorite, that you cannot cut without diamond-tipped boring devices. A diamond-tipped chisel, I don't think so. So they measured see, no human face is 100% symmetric. See, my eye is a little higher, this is a little smaller, it's a little bit bigger. My nose is a little tilted to the side. See, we're not 100% symmetric. So a statue out of diorite that is 100% symmetric, where you can go to Photoshop and take two ciphers and put them over the eyes. The perfect Vesca Pisces is formed. You can triangulate the coordinates from the nose over the lips and add geometry and the golden ratio, and everything fits. It has perfect symmetry. For rock, we need machines to do that. This cannot be done by hand. And a debunker that says this is just theoretical speculation, as long as we have no stonemason on Earth that can replicate a statue out of diorite without a diamond-tipped machine, just with a copper blade and a rock, you have squat. And they tried it. The chisel, less than a macrometer of a diorite, they went through hundreds of copper chisels. So meaning we don't have that much copper on Earth that this could be manufactured. So I say, and I'm leaning out here, that this statue is Atlantean and it was machined. Because I read those stories, and that's where these scholars don't go. Go through folklore. Go into the Arabian tales. In Germany we call them Tausend und eine Nachtgeschichten, 1001 Nights Arabian fairy tales. There are stories in there that will blow your mind. One of the famous one is Ali Baba and the 40 Thieves. You ever heard of the term open sesame? That is a documentation of what was, of a thief that had access to a mountain with a rock door that would move when he would say open sesame, which was a code word for the door to open. Today we have voice activated doors, fingerprint activated doors. This is technology. So I believe, what if that folklore was technology misinterpreted? And Earth is the greatest cargo cult on the planet. When you see the Anunnakian gods, look at the templates of the dudes that stand sideways. They have wristbands with kind of like flower of life symbols on them and cones in their hand, and you see rays coming out. I don't want to believe this is mythology. I believe this is replicated technology documented in a way that we don't know what we're looking at, but let's chisel it in stone. And that is the oldest medium on the planet to store knowledge is stone. And debunker said, they want to argue with stuff that's not even valid, just made up stuff that they create. We have now found out, which we've been channeling this for hundreds of years, that the story of us is stored in the crystal. The crystal grows in timelines, like the Lemurian crystal, quartz crystal. If you ever looked at a Lemurian, you see lines. So if you had a computer that is from extraterrestrial origin that can do spectrum analysis on timelines, you can aim a laser at a line, read it, and it would show you images of what this Earth looked like photonically at the time. We have yet to develop that technology. But we're catching up. 20 years ago, they said it's impossible to regrow teeth. Well, last year, a guy found out through stem cell research how to regrow individual teeth according to the DNA of your body. So in the future, no more implants. You can have your original thing implanted as a seed and your teeth will grow back. It's been done. It's in the labs. You can read it. It's in scientific review. So all of the stuff we're trying to debunk, we're actually inventing anyway. So that's it, party people. Yeah, replicators at some point will exist. They have shown that if people don't want no more slaughter and still want to eat meat, that out of stem cells they can grow basically meatballs. If those who still prefer meat. Macrobiotic and nutrient programs essentially made for the human body for those who have these enzymes to break that down. And I know we heard the argumentation between meat and vegan. They measured the consciousness of salad and tomatoes is the same consciousness and soul aspects as in animals. And when a tomato gets eaten, it's this, you can, if you want to call it murder, the tomato dies like an animal and has sentient consciousness. A fern in the woods has 528 chromosomes. We have what, 46? So think about how deep this soul goes that's connected with that fern. So when you eat your kale and your quinoa and all of that stuff, uh, anything you transform, you have to kill. Integrate, reintegrate. So look at the aspects of what is. And a breatharian is only, what is it, the Vedas and Agamas describe human consciousness abilities. Yeah, human consciousness abilities are described as, I'll give it 5 more minutes, then I give you an hour, I think that's enough. Super conscious abilities are CDs, and they go from basic levels to supernatural powers. And I also say if anyone can spit out diamonds, build a temple, buy property. That's my proof. The rest is gimmicks and little showcases and narratives on stage that always add on to the storyline. And those who can perform what's real, they don't add to the storyline. We're not David Copperfield, we're not illusionists. We come with what is, and I just wanted to share that with you to clarify a few things. And yeah, just I'm allowing myself to look at things where they you like this. Take a diorite block, and we still have problems even cutting that stuff. So we can't even cut the blocks how we found them in the different sites. And that's what I want to believe, the people that go to sites where stuff that's actually there. So I thank Erich von Däniken, I thank Ancient Aliens to go to these sites to show you what is there. Like in India, there's an entire temple carved out of a solid mountain top. We can't do that. We don't have the ability to carve a temple structure out of solid rock like that. We can't. And yet it exists, and it refuses to go away, and you can go there and look at it. Same with Michael Tellinger that found that footprint in the rock. That is kind of like, I don't know, this side, no, higher. It's like 4'5". You can go there yourself and look at it, and you can say, by coincidence, nature has formed something that might look like it. There's things on Earth that we have to have an open mind to see that there's more going on that we know. And a theory that I have that I'm working on, maybe at some point I get funding, that if the photonic, it's past religions, by the way. Ancient Aliens is past religions. And Ancient Aliens is nothing new. So Erich von Däniken had a show called Chariots of the Gods, which I bought the videotapes in Germany, and it's based entirely on that. And they just revived that and brought more people on board. If anybody has a magnetic motor that can run for 400 years, put it on the table and show it. You don't need to find a Stephen Greer or anybody that says, free energy, and they have their narratives. And that's what feeds them, and it's nice, it's being propagated, but I'm more like, it's nice for the narrative, but I want to see the motor. Turn it on, and I'll use it. And I know actually how to use it, because if you can use energy, you're producing other energy conduits emanating into the air. So I work with that. From people fighting over orgonite, which is, we need to find a unified mind where we all agree on one thing and put things on the table that work. So if your seeds grow potatoes of this size, then I'm getting your seeds. Somebody comes with rotten apple, of course I'm not subscribing to rotten apples. So look at my progress, look at what I do. There's bigger things coming. I'm working on a water plasma device that will actually plasmically enhance the quality of water. My phone chip was measured by Masaru Emoto's lab, where the crystals form with the. Yeah, I know James Gillian. He has one of my pendants, by the way. He came to my booth. There's physical things that I've sent into labs, which takes time, but I have the write-ups, I have the notarized and approved documentation that my pendants actually influence the fibroblast, the connective the connective cell tissue of your body, that I can do physical things. And soon I will put the fuel savers back online. Like I said, this is beta testing. Some cars respond very well, and some I have problems finding, because some cars I think are manipulated with injection systems that force you to use gas, and you can't save it because there's a computer setting that forces you to burn miles per gallon, which I found out also that is not cool from the industry to do that. Older cars respond like this. And I have a video where I'm testing a Chevy, and the Chevy went from I think a 26.5 miles per gallon average. I upped it to, I think, like 57.5 miles per gallon, whether it's highway or city, by attaching my device to the Chevy. The video is on YouTube. Everybody can watch it. Why I'm not having millions of views baffles me. I should, but maybe this is the way things are. And on that note, party people, I gave you 1 hour of straight talk, real talk, you know. There's not no some hippie stuff and namaste and it's all good. No, it's not all good. Make it happen, make it right, speak your truth, you know, and show people you're about it. And that's why I'm here, and that's why I do this for you. Thank you so much. This was in response to the why Earth is no longer under quarantine. I want to do a video on why Earth is not flat, because you have to read the Vedas. And it's going to be a very short video. The flat earthers have a theory, but nobody can walk in and out of Earth. If you show me a gate, I might follow you. But the Vedic texts say for the plane to live in, you need a length dimension, a breadth dimension, and a depth dimension. And on a flat surface, that's not possible. That's why water molecules form like this. On a two-dimensional picture, you can't dig a hole. That's impossible. So we got to rethink that concept before we get lost in other conspiracy concepts that are just a distraction to say, let's go this way, and it's another illusion. And you'll see, you know, we have magical things, like I said, replication of teeth is happening. Gravitational waves have been found. Now they want to work with anti-gravity and considering gravitational waves. Also, there was a government script where NASA is attempting to contact sentient life forms by using dimethyltryptamine, meaning instead of going to outer space, they go into inner space to make contact with ETs. So there's stuff happening, but on the individual basis, for the individual, not disclosure. It's not going to happen. Disclosure with a big D, no. It's going to be a small d. For the individual. DMT is dimethyltryptamine. Understand what that is. If you don't know, read the book, The Spirit Molecule, and what they have tested with physical facts, things that can be repeated over and over, and it's not free association. It's stuff that really takes place and comes into physical form, and then you'll see the magic, and you'll live the magic. Peace to Phoenix reigns. Love you all very much. Watch Mary Rodwell, The New Human, with kids that have abilities that are not in training, they just are. And this is the direction. And wonder why Mary Rodwell is not on Gaia, not on Coast to Coast, and not on MUFON. These people I want to see. And the natives with the tails, with integrity, I want to see. Then we're moving more towards what's really happening. And you should take heed to that. So thank you so much for checking us out. And yeah, Mary Rodwell. My favorite starseed, Tracy Taylor. The woman draws schematics that are mind-blowing. Her website's called Harmonic Blueprint. Check her out. Peace. From commander to commanders and starseeds and starseedlings, I see you on the flip side. Peace.